Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of 321 Thursdays. This is my weekly video series in which I bring before you value enrichment content for UPSC answers and essays. Guys, we are increasingly moving towards a digital world. From an analog world, we are traversing this journey to become an increasingly digital world. And in the process, several promises and perils of the digital technologies are being unveiled to us. While there are immense benefits of these technologies, there are also several challenges. Challenges such as cyber threats, digital divides, and online human rights abuse. In this context, the government of India is also seized of this issue. We have a Digital India mission. We have started a new digital communication policy, and also a data protection bill is pending in the parliament. In today's episode, I will be focusing on digital governance per se. Let me share before you 3 data points, 2 ideas, and 1 roadmap in context of the digital governance or digital cooperation. So let's get started. First, let me share before you 3 data points regarding this particular theme. According to the recently released Digital Inclusiveness Index, India is ranked 46 out of 100 countries in the world. Prepared by the Economist Intelligence Unit, this ranking basically measures the accessibility, affordability, and relevance of internet in a country. India is ranked at the mid-level. Despite all our efforts, and despite the huge change that digital technologies are bringing about, you can see that compared to other countries, we are still yet to cover a lot of ground. So in this context, let us see our 3 data points which will throw light on penetration of internet in the country. According to NSO data, the digital penetration in India stands at 15% in rural areas and 42% in urban areas. That is, 15% of the rural household have access to internet, whereas 42% of the urban households have access to internet. So there is clearly a divide based on rural and urban categories. Furthermore, we see that different states perform very differently. So on one hand, we have a state like Himachal Pradesh, where 70% have access to 70% households have access to internet, whereas in case of Odisha, the figure stands at a measly 6%. There are only 2 states, guys, Himachal Pradesh and Kerala, where over 50% of the households have access to internet. So this shows that even across different states, we see this digital divide. Apart from this, only 1 out of 10 households in the country has access to a computer. Whether it would be a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet, that is immaterial, but only 1 out of 10 households has access to it. So these data points reveal, guys, that there is a lot of ground to cover when it comes to digital inclusiveness in our country, despite India's huge reputation of being a software powerhouse. Now, let us move to the second segment, where I will be sharing 2 ideas with you. The first idea that I wish to share with you is surveillance capitalism. Professor Shoshana Zuboff, in her recent book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, gives this idea. Guys, surveillance capitalism is nothing but commodification of personal information for the sake of making profit. The big digital companies today, who are popularly acronymized as GAFAM, so Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all of these companies, they mine data of the users and sell it so that they can make profit out of it. Okay? So they try to make personal data as a resource from which monetary value can be extracted. This Professor Zuboff says is the next stage of capitalism, that is surveillance capitalism. These companies use very powerful artificial intelligence based algorithms which shape our behavior online. These algorithms make us spend time on these platforms to watch things which these big corporations expect us or want us to watch so that they could make money or profit out of it. So this is the idea of surveillance capitalism. So capitalism has evolved through various stages, starting with trade, then industry, finance, and the latest one apparently appears to be surveillance capitalism. So this is one idea. I'm not calling it a concept per se, because it is not something that has been academically accepted as such, but it's an idea that is being widely discussed. The second idea was referred to in an article in Indian Express recently. This idea is that of a digital Didi. So what is this digital Didi? Guys, last year, Nandan Nilekani committee gave the target of increasing our digital transactions by 10 times over next 3 years. It also said that we need to go from high value, low volume and high cost transactions to low value, high volume and low cost transactions. So exactly reverse of what we are doing currently. In short, this means that we need to increase digital transactions that take place in India. Although the apps are becoming increasingly popular and National Payment Corporation of India has done a fantastic job, yet the low level of digital awareness and secondly, a lot of fears and trepidations about frauds, about a lot of interference in digital transactions has led a lot of people to stay away from digitizing their transactions. In this context, the idea of digital Didi has been suggested in one of the articles. What is this digital Didi concept or idea? Basically, digital Didi will be a cadre of young girls who will be trained in executing digital transactions. Visibly identifiable through their uniforms or badges, these Didis will be posted at various public places such as railway stations, bus stands, shopping malls and markets, where they can help people do their transactions in the digital mode. Once people start to gain that confidence, then they will themselves execute those transactions. But that initial nudge can be given by this digital Didi. These Didis could be trained, they could be paid a stipend by the banks, and the government can also incentivize them by keeping a small commission in the transaction that they execute. This will be an added source of revenue for young girls. It will increase their confidence and they could also be prioritized in terms of different type of government jobs or other opportunities. So this is another fantastic idea that can be used to increase the penetration of digital transactions in the country. It is very similar to the ASHA model that we used in National Rural Health Mission. And we all know that ASHAs, which are community health workers, have played an immense role in increasing or improving our health-related development indices. So these were the two ideas, guys, that I presented before you. The first one was surveillance capitalism and the second one was digital Didis. Now let us go to the third segment of today's session, where I will be sharing before you a roadmap. The UN Secretary General has provided an 8-step roadmap for global digital cooperation. And this I wish to present before you, which can be used as value addition for your answers as well as essays. The first point in this roadmap is digital connectivity for all. Guys, today, only half of the world has access to internet. This roadmap says that by 2030, every single person in the world must have access to affordable connectivity of internet. This is very crucial because it is the very starting point for digital cooperation in the world. So that's the first point. The second point is public goods. We need to promote digital public goods so that there would be meaningful access to digital connectivity. Public goods here means access to open source softwares, access to open source AI models, access to open content. When all of these will be made available to people, only then access to digital connectivity will make sense. And that is why that is the second step in the roadmap for global digital cooperation. The third point in this context is inclusion. The existing divides in a society, whether those are gender-based, rural-urban divides, divides of people with disabilities, so on and so forth, get exacerbated in digital connectivity. So those people who are left out in the society are even more vulnerable when it comes to access to the digital world. And therefore, it is very important that all such divides are identified using metrics, using data, and through cooperation, these digital divides are bridged. The fourth aspect in this roadmap is capacity building. We need to build up the capacity of nations and individuals so that they are able to access the digital connectivity more meaningfully. Now, these capacities need to be assessed in their own specific context, and accordingly, the capacity building initiatives need to be made. The next aspect in this roadmap is regarding the digital human rights. All the regulatory architectures, legislations, governance-related policies in the arena of the digital world need to keep human rights at the center. Human rights are very essential, and their violation undermines the dignity of an individual. While this is true for the real world, it is perhaps even more true in the digital world. And therefore, while designing all of these governance-related structures, having human rights at the core is very, very crucial. The next aspect regarding this roadmap is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a very disruptive technology which is changing the world at a rate faster than ever before. Now, while the benefits of this technology cannot be denied, at the same time, we need to be careful about how it affects or maybe potentially even violates the rights of individuals. And hence, the rights of the individuals, his or her agency, must always be prioritized while using artificial intelligence. The next aspect in this roadmap, that is the seventh point, is in context of data security. All those data technologies which underpin societal functions, so functions related to food distribution, functions related to infrastructure, functions related to social justice, they need to be safeguarded at all costs because they are the linchpins on which the states work. The eighth or the last aspect of this roadmap is global cooperation. Global cooperation on digital aspects does not get the right sort of political attention that it deserves. And therefore, in cooperation world over, digital cooperation needs to be prioritized. To start with, the Internet Forum can be strengthened is what this particular roadmap says. So guys, these are the 8 points that UN Secretary General gave in his roadmap for global cooperation in the digital world. I hope you found today's episode useful. Do let me know in the comment box below and watch my other series also, that is Unique Panoptic, where I take up discussion of weekly articles. Thank you and see you in the next episode.
Subscribe the Unique Academy's YouTube channel and press the bell icon for latest updates and videos.